It should be streaming now. Refresh. Scroll down. There we go. Okay.
Yep. Good on Facebook.
They told us wait, but destiny don't wait at the gate.
We got phones in our hands and fire in our souls. Code and faith, that's how we roll. Every post, every beat, every word we speak is thunder under the tyrant's feet. We're gonna shake the earth. Oh, let it roll. Truth in our mouths and light in our soul. From Lego streets to yours and north, we rise in love. We shake the earth. We shake the earth. We shake the earth. We shake the earth.
We're the sons of dawn, the daughters of flame.
We carry hope in the face of pain.
We don't need crowns or foreign praise.
Just clean hearts and brighter days.
They call us youth, we call it now. They build their lives, we break the vow. We serve with love, we fight with peace, till every captive soul's released.
We're gonna shake the earth. Truth on the wire. Light on our tongues and hearts on fire. No more silence.
No
More curse. God's youth arise. And shake the earth. We shake the earth. We shake the earth. We shake the earth. We shake the earth. And shake the earth. Who we be? Earth shakers. Till the dark turns dawn. Earth shakers. The kingdom come.
Well, hello and welcome to Nigeria this week. We didn't have a show last week. I was actually in Germany meeting with a fantastic group of Nigerian diaspora Germans, very passionate about the cause. And we'll talk about that in later weeks. And also, folks, this is a relatively new platform for me. Our team's been learning it. Going live is a high level of difficulty. And our last episode, we had a number of technical issues. So I'm actually going to repeat a little bit about what we talked about in past weeks to make sure that it comes across crystal clear and everybody knows what's going on. We have a great show for you this week lined up. If it comes out right, I hope it does. Say a prayer for us here. Stay tuned. We're going to give an update on the narrative war. A lot is happening in this struggle in Washington, D.C. and beyond. We're going to take a deep dive into the profile of one of Trump's his senior advisor for Africa and the Middle East, Mossad Boulos. The Sultan of Sokoto had an interesting few comments this week at a MACBAN meeting, and we're going to dig into that. And we have an investigation into the jihad economy, how the black flag jihadists in the Middle Belt and North support themselves off the land. And we're going to have a fantastic guest, Mr. Stephen Anata, one of the most bright spots in Washington. You may have never heard of him. He doesn't promote himself or call attention to himself. He just puts his nose down and gets the work done. Highly respected man. Honored to have him with us. That and a few other surprises this week on Nigeria This Week. Coming at you.
Let there be light.
We're back to Nigeria this week. This week, I got new technology. I'm using a teleprompter. So if you see me fidgeting here, just bear with me. I'm learning this stuff. But this week, we have a narrative war update. It was just 1 month ago this week that President Trump declared victory in Nigeria. Here's what he had to say. We good?
The audio's not coming through.
Oh, I was told the audio might not have come through on that. We're figuring it out, folks. Okay, so what it is, it was a week ago, a month ago this week, Trump came out and declared victory on, Trump came out and declared victory in Nigeria, said that he had ended substantially the killing of Christians and that he had taken out the leadership and all that stuff. But folks, this, you and I both know that's not true. He has been manipulated and he has been misled, which is a dangerous situation. Let me tell you what victory looks like. This is a short list, and there's certainly more that's happened, but this is the short list from news reports of what's happened in Nigeria since Trump declared victory. In June 29th, in Lassa, Borno State, Boko Haram and ISWAP stormed Government Day Secondary School during exam. 36 students were abducted, 25 girls, 11 boys, all Christians, of course. One teacher was killed on the spot. What a traumatic experience for those poor children. That's the Lassa hostage crisis. Today, I believe, is day 32 of that since Trump declared victory. On July 10th, in the Middle Belt, 2 Christian farmers were shot dead while working in a cassava field. July 11th and 12th in Kum and Waring camp in Riom, LGA, Plateau State, 25 Christians killed, including a 2-month-old infant, 9 members of one family in a single night. And those were relatives of Pastor Ezekiel Dechomo. Horrific situation. The Nigerian army had received early warnings and ignored them once again. That's what victory looks like. July 13th in Benue and Plateau, combined attacks killed 27 in 1 week. Benue youth blocked a federal highway in protest after 18 were killed in just the 36-hour stretch. July 21st and 22nd in the Middle Belt, a Christian community leader appealed publicly for peace with Fulani militias on July 21st. He was killed the next day by the same group. 2 other youths killed in the same attack. July 26th in Naradun, Karo, LGA in Kaduna State. 30 plus Christians massacred just before midnight. 11 children, 10 women, 9 men, ages 3 through 87. Catholic and ECWA congregations. Houses burned. Security arrived hours after the attackers left. Full toll may exceed 60. This is the freshest, 5 days ago. And July 28th, in FAE community, Atukpo, LGA, Benue, 13 more killed. Folks, does this sound like victory to you? Again, Trump has been manipulated. He's been misled. He's in a bubble of corrupt advisors, surrounded by millions and millions in Nigerian lobby money. It's a dire situation, but by God's grace, thankfully, quite a few real heroic leaders have been stepping up and making some comments. Of course, we know that just a couple weeks ago in the House of Representatives, they passed an amendment to a funding bill that, if it passes the House and the Senate and gets enacted by the president, which will be likely next year sometime if it goes through, it will stop the aid, 100% of the aid that the U.S. gives to the Nigerian government. Now, that said, the narrative war rages on. It's just talk at this point. It's just words on paper. But there's some really strong people that I'm happy to see are stepping up. For example, Riley Moore. I've criticized him in the past when he's warranted it, when he's expressed such pleasure in working with the Nigerian government. But I believe he's a good man, and as he learns more of the truth, he's going to do more of the right things. Here's something he said on July 15th. Christians in Nigeria continue to endure horrific violence, murder, and persecution, while the majority of the world turns a blind eye to the suffering. Truth. Thank you, Representative Moore. Here's another, Representative Greg Stubbe. He's from Florida. This is the gentleman who filed the amendment to take the sanctions, or at least the stopping of aid, from 50% to 100%, stopping all aid. Here's what he had to say. My amendment to withhold 100% of U.S. aid to Nigeria until its government stops the slaughter of Christians has passed. American taxpayers should never bankroll governments that turn a blind eye while Christians are abducted, tortured, and murdered. Yes, that means the Nigerian government. They turn a blind eye. Thank you, Representative Stubbe. Here's another. Representative John James. This one is powerful. It shows it's going through. You should be listening on Facebook. It shows it's feeding.
Audio is not coming.
It says it's feeding on Facebook. I see it going out. You're not watching live, Jeff.
Yes.
It's delayed.
No, it's not coming through on Facebook either.
Folks, I don't know, and if you could post a comment if you heard that. I'm told by my staffer that audio might not have come through. But here's the thing. Representative John James from Michigan made a very bold statement against the Nigerian government, also demanded the release of Nnamdi Kanu, a prisoner of conscience that was convicted on bogus charges by a kangaroo court, now is spending a life sentence in Sokoto prison. He's spoken out, first of, I hope, many, demanding his release. And we have to thank a group in the United States, one of these groups that flies under the radar. They don't promote themselves. They don't get out there and raise money and notoriety for themselves, but they do the heavy lifting. A group called AVID, A-V-I-D, the American Veterans of Igbo Descent. I know they've worked closely with Representative James, and they should get credit where it's due. Here's another quote. Representative Chris Smith. This man is a friend of Nigeria. He's been there. He has done a lot of the heavy lifting over the years. He's chair of the House Foreign Affairs Subcommittee on Africa. And he said this. He condemned Nigeria's blatant denial of the religious persecution occurring within its borders. Thank you, Representative Smith. Another person who has been a true friend of Nigeria, and I think he knows more than a lot of these folks. The thing is, a lot of this work happens in the House of Representatives before it goes to the Senate. His time is coming, and you'll be hearing a lot more, I believe, from Ted Cruz as this goes forward. He had this to say on July 25th, just the other day. Instead of tackling persecution against Christians, the Tinubu government launched a PR campaign. Damning words from Senator Ted Cruz. And he went on. He said, Nigerian officials have created an environment that facilitates mass violence against Christians and religious minorities by imposing blasphemy and Sharia laws and looking the other way at jihadist atrocities. Truer words have never been spoken, my friends. That's exactly what Nigerian officials have done. They've created an environment and they've looked the other way. And Cruz sees it, and it looks like others are starting to see it. One more interesting quote from this week. Never thought I'd see this one, and we'll talk about it more. Look at this. Masad Bulus, everybody's favorite senior advisor to Africa and the Middle East. I say that tongue in cheek. He said this: the ongoing violence against Christian communities and other vulnerable populations in Nigeria's Middle Belt is intolerable. The United States remains committed. Now, here's where he gives his tell and pushes his true agenda. The United States remains committed to partnering with Nigeria. The same people the other representatives are calling out for turning a blind eye, for enabling, for facilitating this. Bulus, Trump's senior advisor, is still saying this: the United States remains committed to partnering with Nigeria to combat terrorism and violent extremism, and to ensure that all Nigerians can live and worship freely without fear of persecution or violence. Which is it, Mr. Bulus? Are you committed to ending the terrorism and violent extremism? Or are you committed to working with the Nigerian government? Because the fact is, and it's becoming painfully obvious, you can't do both. You can't work with the facilitators, enablers, and beneficiaries of the terroristic violence, the jihad, and end it at the same time. So, but it's good to see that Masad Bulus is feeling the heat. Clearly, people have been getting loud, and they need to keep getting louder. I'm calling on everybody that hears this to keep ratchet up the volume, my friends. And even if you've said nothing before, now's the time to say it. Speak the truth, post it, and tag these people. Tag Bulus, tag Cruz, tag Trump. Keep it going. The narrative war is still raging, and we're making progress. Here's what I think has been going on. These people that are now starting to speak up a little louder and more forcefully, they've been waiting for Donald Trump. And I've had hope in Trump as well. And it's not all gone yet. It's worn thin. But now that he's been successfully misled and manipulated to the extent that he declared victory, which obviously isn't true, they're getting louder, and that's good. But here's what I need to relay to you Nigerians watching this. All these quotes are good, no doubt about it, but in the big picture, they really mean nothing. Okay. So, for example, the amendment that was passed on that funding bill, it's good. But it's a very, 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 very small victory. And in and of itself, it means nothing because, again, it has to pass the whole House. Nowhere close to that yet. And it will be fought, there's no doubt about it, by people on the other side, which is incomprehensible, but it's the way things work. Also, and of course, the lobbyists are going to play hardball there as well. But even if it passes the whole House, then it goes to the Senate. They have their own funding bills. And if that's different, if it doesn't include these provisions, then it goes to a conference committee where the House and Senate come together and work it out. If it survives the House and the Senate and the conference committee and gets ratified by the House and the Senate after that, then it goes to the president's desk and he either signs it or he doesn't. And all of that could be well into next year before we get into that. And even then, it's just a stop of free money that we've been handing to the Nigerian government to do things they should have been doing and they can afford to do on their own if they weren't so damn corrupt. So all that to say, it's good. These quotes are good. These statements are good. But folks, it's just a start. And the fact is, we're the only people paying attention to this stuff. Nobody in the United States, I would venture to say, heard any of this. And of course, at least it didn't register on the radar screen. It's not news here. You got to be on the feed, on the socials, and you got to keep an eye on it to see that these things are even being said. The fact still remains that I would say, and I think I could back it up with statistics, that you could line up 1,000 Americans and still today 990 of them couldn't find Nigeria on a map. Again, this is a good start. You have leaders starting to speak up, but they're only going to go so far without getting calls from their constituents, without there being a public groundswell. And so again, speak up, get loud. Don't take these as victories. Take these as encouragement. But that's all it is. We haven't won anything. So keep it up. One thing about all this I'd like to point out, these are good quotes. Most of these, except for Boulos, of course, mean well. And they are passionate about it. I do believe. And all of them are Republicans. Now, I'm not saying this to be partisan, but it's a fact. It was the Democrat, Barack Obama, who unleashed much of this hell. We'll go into that in a future episode. It was a Democrat, Biden, who covered it all up, removed Nigeria from the CPC list to begin with. It's been the Democrats, when these things come to committee, that argue against it and fight against it and prop up phony speakers and push out false data. So if you're a Nigerian in the United States and you don't know who to vote for, I'm not a partisan, but if you're passionate about Nigeria, take note. It's the Republicans who are standing up for Nigeria against the evil, and the Democrats who have been turning a blind eye and even enabling the evil to continue. So just making that point again, not a partisan, but it's a fact. Now, mentioned Mossad Boulos, everybody's favorite special advisor. And I say that tongue in cheek. And I bring him up in the context of this. I mentioned Trump has been manipulated and misled. And I don't believe there's any doubt. In fact, it's obvious that this is one of the ringleaders of lying to Donald Trump and manipulating him to turn a blind eye to these atrocities. He no doubt had a voice in Trump declaring victory, which is shameful, absolutely shameful. He is a Tinubu crony and a Trump advisor. Now, I first heard about this guy last October. Some of you may remember the famous press conference, October 14th in Abuja, where the Nigerian government flew me and our producer, Jeff Gibbs, to Nigeria to be, this may be an American reference, to be the Jane Fonda of Nigeria. Jane Fonda was an American who was manipulated by the North Vietnamese communists during the Vietnam War to say nice things about them. She flew over to North Vietnam and posed with some of their anti-aircraft guns and stuff. Same guns that were killing American servicemen. And these were horrible people. And they wanted me to do the same thing. They brought me over there. As part of that, they stuck me in a room with Isa Pantami. I think you may know his name. He is a northern imam, Muslim leader. Number of years back, he's on the record publicly saying, of course, we all celebrate whenever unbelievers are being killed. That's Isa Pantami. Went on under the Buhari administration to be a federal minister. But I was stuck in a room with him and a couple of northern imams. And that was the day before that went out and did the press conference where they expected me to call genocide a hoax, and I told the truth, and it blew up. That's the same day the Nigerian Senate convened an emergency meeting. 3.2 billion global impressions within 3 days. People credit that with getting Trump involved. During that visit, I had a opportunity to use a hidden camera, and I filmed Isa Pantami without their knowing it, and the other imams as they fed me the approved talking points. I made this video back then because it took my breath away, and this is using my footage. I hope that it's showing on my stream here that the audio is going through, so I'm going to let it play through. Send a comment, I'll be able to see it. Send a comment, let me know if the audio is coming through on this. But here's Mossad Boulos speaking to Nigerian government television. This is Nigerian state television. He after the press conference October 14th on, I believe it was the 17th, 3 days later, he met with President Tinubu, an unscheduled meeting, met with him in Rome, and came out of that room and talked to Tinubu's cameras and gave this statement.
Audio. Coming through.
Okay. Well, folks, I'm told that this video, the audio is not coming through. We will figure that out. And I apologize if that's the case. What it is, it's a back and forth. It shows these northern imams, Isa Pantami and the other two, saying exact things. This is farmer-herder conflict. And in the exact same language, Bulus comes out and says the same thing. They say, this is global warming. He comes out and says global warming. They say more Muslims are being killed than Christians. He says the same thing verbatim. That's what Bulus did. I risked my life. Literally, I was prepared to die to tell the truth. And he comes out and says the exact Tinubu talking points. And this is Trump's senior advisor. So it caused me to dig a little bit. Who is this fellow, Massad Bulus? And I dug into what is Bulus's business. If you dig into it, here's what you'll find. First of all, he is a protege and partner of a man named Gilbert Chaguri. Folks, there is, and if you look at it, there is, I call it the Lebanese mob. There is a cadre of Lebanese who have been in Nigeria, centered in Lagos, for decades and decades and decades. And they have a very, very strong hand, puppet strings tied to a whole lot of what's happening there. Let me tell you who Bulus's business partner is, this Gilbert Chaguri. Here's our documented facts. He was convicted in Switzerland of money laundering, $120 million from Nigeria's central bank on behalf of Nigerian dictator Sani Abacha. That's Massad Bulus's partner, Gilbert Chaguri. He's on the FBI terrorism watch list, suspected Hezbollah financier in Lebanon. The Department of Justice, he settled $1.8 million settlement for illegal U.S. campaign contributions to Democrats. This is the man who is today receiving Nigeria's biggest contracts. Folks, it's a stinking bag of money. Here's what Chaguri gets from Tinubu. Lagos Calabar Highway, a $13 billion no bid contract handed to him. Nobody else was allowed to bid. $13 billion, Tin Can and Apapa Ports, $700 million. Snake Island, $1 billion, 45-year concession. All of this was done in 2 years ago, equal to 72% of Nigeria's federal budget for that year. Tinubu handed it to Chaguri. No bid. While he was governor, he gave him 10 million square meters in Lagos to build the Eco-Atlantic development. And that was when Tinubu was governor. In Tinubu's own words, with friends like him, that's Chaguri, one can sleep with a still mind. Here's the thing, and I've tracked it, and we'll go in more in depth to this. It appears that every time that Tinubu has taken out another loan, a lot of it to fund Chaguri's deals, he has recently visited France, where he stays at Chaguri's mansion. So he visits Chaguri, comes back, takes out another loan that ends up in Chaguri's pockets. It's very interesting. And Chaguri is the Let me find out what's going on. Okay. Chaguri. There we go. Chaguri is the senior partner of a construction company, the owner of construction companies. And it is known as a fact in public that for all these construction projects, his preferred supplier of heavy equipment is the company SCOA. That is Masad Boulos's family company, which he may still be the CEO. We don't really know. He was CEO at least up until he was appointed by Trump as special advisor. And he is preferred equipment provider to these companies owned by Chaguri that had received 72% of Nigeria's federal budget 2 years ago. So he personally, his family company, of no doubt shareholder, personally benefits from no bid contracts issued by Tinubu, and they're tied to Tinubu's reelection. If Tinubu doesn't get reelected, the contracts may be canceled. Chaguri, Boulos, who benefits from these no bid contracts, is Trump's senior advisor, and he happens to be Tiffany Trump's father-in-law. Folks, this stinks to the high heaven. Here's another thing. I requested his disclosure forms. In the United States, we're supposed to have an open government, supposed to be transparent. In the past, presidential appointees to positions like this, their disclosure forms, they have to list legally all of their business entanglements and partnerships and sources of income. In the past, those were available on the White House website. This term, Trump removed that. You have to file an open records request. I filed an open records request for Boulos's disclosure forms on April 14th with the U.S. State Department. They told me I would have the results by May 27th. It's 2 months later. I still don't have it. Where are Boulos's disclosure forms? I don't know, but perhaps they're sitting on a shelf with Tinubu files. Who knows? But I'm going to work on that. In fact, I'm going to be talking to a law firm about filing a lawsuit to get those disclosure forms. We need to know exactly what these entanglements are. And here's the thing. It's a dangerous situation for the innocent people of Nigeria. Trump is a historic leader who can actually do something about this killing. He was not afraid to drop bombs. And look at what he's done in other countries. What he did to Maduro. Look what he's doing to the Ayatollahs in Iran. The Ayatollah, he wiped him out, and he's dismantling Iran. He can be a formidable force if the truth gets to him. It looks like this bubble is starting to pop. People are speaking up, and even Masad Boulos now is acknowledging the truth. That's progress. He's feeling the heat. Folks, turn up the heat. Get louder. Get louder. Post more. Speak more. Disclose more. Make it so they can't ignore. It is taking effect. Speaking of taking effect, some interesting comments this week by the Sultan of Sokoto. Everybody's favorite Sultan. He met with MacMahon, the Miyadi Allah folks, which he's chairman of the herder group in Abuja on Wednesday. He said a few interesting things. Here's one. Sultan of Sokoto on Wednesday. I want to assure all Nigerians that we mean well for everybody in Nigeria. We mean no harm to anybody. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you, Sultan. You really convinced me with that. You mean no harm to anybody at all. Let me ask you this. How did you get the 40 oil wells you own down in the Southeast? What right do you have to those? How did you get your throne to begin with? It's interesting because you were last in line of succession when you were serving as the military attaché in Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia, the center of terrorism on earth. You were there for 3 years, from 2003 to 2006. on the behalf of an OIC, an Islamic country. You were there. You weren't representing Western interests. You had close proximity to all these terror groups that are now operating in your domain ever since you came back. It's sort of crazy about that, huh? And when you got back in 2006, suddenly retired at age 50, pretty young to retire, and came home to Nigeria. In a short period of time, there was a plane crash, mysterious, just happened. Never really got to the bottom of it. 10 top generals who were reformers trying to make the government, the military more responsive to the people of Nigeria. They were all killed. And then just a few weeks later, the sitting sultan, who was not as radical as you, he was actually seemed to be something of a reformer, certainly wasn't as passionate about this stuff as you are, it seems. He was killed with his heir apparent son and some of his grandkids and some others, including one of the council, at least one of the council that chooses the sultan, supposedly. But the airport radar was shut off at Abuja. Their plane takes off, crashes. Within 24 hours, it's declared human error. Oops. They went after some air traffic control bureaucrats to blame for all this. No investigation. And within 4 days, historic record time, usually it's like picking a new pope. You are named the new sultan. Last on the list. You were not the oldest son. You were not in the same blood family line. You were in a different family line and the youngest son of that line. But within 4 days of this plane crash that kills the prior sultan, you're appointed sultan. Historic record time. And after that is when all this terror starts to ramp up, when the homegrown terror groups start to use the tactics that are deployed in the zones where you happen to be the last 3 years, the suicide bombings, the sophisticated ransom schemes and all that stuff. That happened after you return. And now at least 8 black flag groups operate in your kingdom. The same groups that you have supposedly had interaction or the ability to interact with while you were serving as military attaché in Iran, Iraq, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Saudi Arabia during the war on terror. They've all come to your domain. So yeah, and throughout all this killing, throughout all this slaughter, you've not issued one fatwa against the killers. You have not one time taken the Fulani militia, your foot soldiers, to task. You have not spoken against the $9 billion a year of looting of blood minerals in your domain. You've done none of this. But yes, we will take your word for it, sir, that you mean no harm for anybody. He went on. This one it really grabs me here. Call the criminals who are abducting people, engaging in kidnapping, terrorism, and whatever. Call them criminals. In every family, you have bad people and you have good people. He's calling them his family. I happen to belong to the family of good people. Tell that to the 6 million Nigerians who have been killed by these jihadists since your great-great-great-great-grandfather, Usman Dan Fodio, launched the jihad that's still raging today. You happen to belong to the family of good people, the bloodline of Dan Fodio, the architect of genocide in Nigeria, the architect of the Sokoto Caliphate, which is the largest enslaver of Africans in history. No other outfit in the history of the world has captured more free Africans and made them slaves and sold them or employed them as slaves. None other, and it continues today. But that's the family of good people. I get it, sir. Here's one other thing he said. This is starting to get interesting, folks, because the narrative has been farmer-herder clash, farmer-herder clash, farmer-herder clash. Everybody says it. That was started in the Obama State Department as a cover for the nefarious activities he was doing in Nigeria. When Hillary Clinton lost, it jumped over to a think tank funded by George Soros, who hired a career Sharia propagandist to come up with this farmer-herder narrative. And that has been repeated by the imams and the government and Mossad Boulos ever since. people have put two and two together. Who are the herders? Well, it's the Fulani herdsmen. So this is a farmer Fulani clash. And it's always the farmers who are killed, massacred at night. There've been people trampling on my gourds or my cassava, and we get in a clash. And their fists might fly, or someone gets beat up. That's a farmer herder clash been raging for centuries. When your Fulani herders on motorcycles with AK-47s and rocket launchers go into a village at midnight and wipe out everybody and burn the churches, that's still been called the farmer herder clash. But again, people have put two together. That's a farmer Fulani clash. And now they're starting to ask questions about that. So here he says, stop attaching the label Fulani herdsmen to kidnappers, bandits, and extremists. Well, of course, that's what they are. He just doesn't want to call them that. I think this is a sign that narrative has run its course. I don't think you're going to be hearing farmer herder clash much anymore, which is a good thing. This is a result of good people telling the truth and continuing to tell the truth. The farmer herder narrative has broken, and the Sultan admitted it. Folks, this is a victory, and I think this is more of a victory than we may realize, more than a little amendment being filed on a bill, which could be good. But the breaking of the farmer herder narrative is what we witnessed this week, I do believe, and I think that's a very good thing. Folks, when we come back, we're going to take a little break. We're going to go into an investigation of the jihad economy, and then we're going to jump to an interview with Stephen Anata, incredible human being. He's in the waiting room now. Stephen, hold on. We're going to do one more story, and we'll come to you in just a little bit.
Nigeria, the biggest story on earth, and they buried it. 185,000 slaughtered, 20,000 churches burned. Genocide. A genocide the world was told to ignore. One man walked into the kill zone to expose it. There be light. They tried to silence it. They failed. Epicenter, the truth they couldn't bury. Now a 3-time #1 bestseller. Read it, then join the fight.
Stranglehold, let the people breathe. Hands inside the cookie jar.
Books instead of bullets, mercy in our hands, teaching sons and daughters, we will heal this land.
Let Africa
Arise in Jesus' name.
Let Africa rise.
The lions to reign.
Chains are breaking, hope is waking. We are children of the light.
Help us rescue more children and bring them hope. Visit africariseusa.org to make a difference.
Still speaks tonight.
You've got a gift. Africa needs it. Writers, artists, coders, lawyers, truth tellers. The Africa Truth Network puts your gift to work for a new Nigeria. Find your place. africatruthnet.com. Let there be light.
We're gonna shake the earth. Oh, let it roll. Truth in our mouths and light in our soul.
Prophet don't whisper. Prophet must roar.
Folks, we are back. This week's investigation, and I got to admit, we did this a couple weeks ago, but it was messed up. The feed didn't go well, so I'm going to reboot it here. Today in Nigeria, at least 8 black flag groups are operating in the Middle Belt in the north. You have Boko Haram, ISIS, ISWAP, Lakurawa. You have Ansaru, which is Al-Qaeda aligned. You have Boko Haram splinter group, JNIM, Nigerian Brigade. You have the Mahmudu group. You have the Sadiku faction. You have the Fulani militias, which are the Caliphate's foot soldiers, responsible for the majority of documented Christian deaths since 2014. Call it coincidence, but all of these have assembled in Nigeria since the current sultan took power in 2006. Nobody knows exactly how many there are. When they surrender and go through the powder puff vacation called rehabilitation, which is a joke, but when they surrender, as many as 3 to 5 family members come with them. So if you add it up, it's easy to get to as many as 500,000 jihadis and their dependents living and operating in Nigeria today, at least 500,000. And they operate with impunity in an area equivalent to the size of the entire Pacific Northwest United States, the states of Washington and Oregon combined, about 250,000 square kilometers, bigger than the nations of Uganda and Ghana. And these people need to eat. They need to live. They have phones and motorcycles and guns and all this stuff. They carry expensive weapons, the communication systems, even drones, all that. And the question is, where does that money come from? What is funding the jihad economy? There's corruption. There's money that's funneled to them from out of state, out of the country. But the reality is they have their own support system. They generate their own income. Now, when they do this, as you saw the Sultan, they'll call them criminals. They call them criminals, bandits, terrorists, anything but what they really are, which is jihadis. They're there on a mission. They yell Allahu Akbar when they do this stuff. They believe they're doing Allah's work. Their imams, their teachers, their Quran, and Dan Fodio's teachings confirm that what they're doing is right. Muhammad beheaded a bunch of people and tells them to do that. Okay, so they're good soldiers, and what they are, whether you call them criminals, bandits, whatever, they are jihadis, and they make a good living in the same way Muhammad raided caravans to steal. They killed people and abducted people and all that stuff. In the same way that Muhammad did that's the template they're following. And they do the same things as their perfect prophet to live off the land. Now, every number we're about to give you comes from Nigeria's own government or the United Nations or the world's leading research institutions. None of this is hidden. It's just never been added up. Part 1, blood minerals. Nigeria loses at least $9 billion every year to illegal mining. The Chinese, mostly, that are raping the land and ripping out the lithium and the gold and the californium and the rare earth elements. This amount, $9 billion a year, was confirmed by the Nigerian House of Representatives, Committee on Solid Materials, and the Nigerian Senate. The thing is, they had to produce this audited report because they're members of, Nigeria is, of this international organization. So this is an audited report. 80% of all the mining in the Northwest is illegal. And the massacre map overlaps with the mineral map. Quite uncanny. The jihadis clear the land, and the miners come in and pay the jihadis rent for doing it, paying for protection. That is $900 million a year, estimate, flowing directly to the jihadis. And that's just a start. The next is ransom. The Nigeria's own National Bureau of Statistics documented $1.42 billion paid in ransom in a single 12-month period between 2023 and 2024. Last November, when 230 children were taken from a Catholic school, the Nigerian government flew a helicopter loaded with cash to Boko Haram's stronghold in Gwoza. 2 Boko Haram commanders walked free in the same deal. Just last month and a half ago, in Goshe, the Nigerian government paid Boko Haram at least $4 million to release the hostages and called it a rescue. The Nigerian government is paying its own enemies cash of about $1.42 billion a year. The next is jizya. Now, this limited information on this, what we have comes from the Lake Chad region. Jizya is the Quran's tax on conquered people. Pay it while they are humbled, it says, or they will die. So it's basically protection money. Look, we'll let you live here, Mr. Christian. You can do your thing. You just got to be quiet about it. You got to do everything we tell you to do. And you got to give us a big chunk of what you earn. That's jizya. It's a Quranic teaching. ISWAP has built a functioning tax state around Lake Chad. Farmers taxed per field, fishermen per bag, livestock owners per head of cattle, traders at checkpoints. The new humanitarian documented 191 million collected annually through these taxes alone. Again, that is one faction in one area. The legitimate government of Borno State collected 18.4 million in tax revenue in 2024. The jihadis outcollect the government by 10 to 1. And again, this is based on the Islamic principle of jizya. At least $191 million a year from one faction in one area. It's probably significantly bigger. But we're only going with what's documented here. Number 4, narcotics. Drugs moving from South America to Europe pass through West Africa. Tons of heroin, hundreds of tons of cocaine stream through Nigeria each year. The jihadis sit on one of the historic trans-Saharan routes. So the same route that the Sokoto Caliphate has used for 2 centuries to sell slaves across the Sahara, the trans-Saharan slave route, they're using it for heroin and cocaine and other drugs these days. Now, here's the most sickening part of this. The same network that has displaced as many as 10 to 12 million Nigerians who are living in horrific conditions in these horrific camps is now selling drugs to these displaced people. Peer-reviewed research from the Mediguri found substance abuse among IDP youth at almost 1/3, 32.7%. 1 in 3 young people who have been displaced by these jihadis is now addicted to opioids. And they're being sold these opioids by the same people who destroyed their homes, killed their families, burned their schools and churches. It's horrible. And that's up to $300 million a year from that. So just from these sources of revenue, the total stream annual mining rent, illegal mining rent, blood minerals, $900 million, kidnap ransoms, modern slavery. You sell them back to the family, you get more than if you sell them on the slave trade, but it's the same thing. ISWAP jizya tax, at least $191 million. Narcotics, $300 million. There's more. There's cattle, fish, agricultural extortion, up to $100 million. There's donors from go to ISIS from Central Middle East and Gulf donors, about $10 to $50 million. Conservative total, $3 billion a year that is being generated by these jihadis the same way that Muhammad generated his income, by raiding camel caravans. That $3 billion a year is equivalent to the entire federal budget of many African nations. It's about the same as Rwanda, Tanzania, Uganda, Senegal. Nigeria's entire federal budget for 2024 was $2.32 billion, significantly less than jihadi income. The jihad is running on a budget that exceeds the entire Nigerian military, extracted from the people the military is supposed to protect. Here's another thing. Reports are that the money doesn't stay in the bush. It feeds the corrupt chain that enables these terrorists to continue. There's reports, credible reports of people who were kidnapped in these kidnap camps. When the ransom comes in, it's a pile of money is stacked in a shed, bundles of dollars, and the stream of cars starts to come. The officials come and get their own chunk of this cash, and what's left over, which is a fraction of the total, stays in the camps with the terrorists. So this corruption and this terrorist economy is feeding the entire supply chain. Pretty horrific. Folks, Tinubu, your president, is an unrepentant drug trafficker. It's proven that by the Drug Enforcement Agency, DEA, of the United States, he had to forfeit about $500,000 in 1993 and flee the United States because he was money laundering for a heroin trafficking ring. And I call him unrepentant because he's never repented of it. What's interesting, this is not like it's not known, a significant influencer, a man that we all know and love, I say that tongue in cheek, is Reno Omokri. He's now a sham ambassador. He cut a deal with Tinubu. I remember when it happened. He was excited about it. He told me about it. But he said this, and this is not that long ago. He said, if anyone can get close enough to Tinubu to take a sample of his hair, this election will be over. Because with his hair sample, a lab can determine if he still takes drugs and what type of drugs he takes. Bola is a known drug lord who belongs in jail, not ASO Rock. Now, folks, if this wasn't true, would Tinubu have cut a deal with him and paid him up to shut up? I doubt it. Folks, that's how the jihadis and a lot of the evil politicians up and down the food chain, that's how this whole terrorism is funded. And you know what? Bless their hearts, the U.S. Congress with cutting off aid is not going to make a dent in that. These jihadis don't care about sanctions. They don't care about any of that. They care about brute force. That's the only way that we're going to be able to deal with them, is to simply wipe them out. And the longer that people like Mossad Bulus and these other corrupt and complicit advisors manipulate Donald Trump, it's not going to happen. That bubble is starting to pop. People are speaking truth. Even the Sultan is himself just undid the whole farmer herder narrative. Keep talking. Keep being loud. Keep posting. Keep sharing. Keep it up. It's working. Now, speaking of somebody who won't be quiet, someone who speaks up, and someone who's making a very real difference. When we come back in just a moment, we're going to be with my friend Stephen Anada. Great interview coming up. Look forward to sharing this with you. Stay tuned.
Mic check. Make I ask one question. Who they lead us?
We're gonna shake the earth. Oh, let it roll. Truth in our mouths and light in our soul.
That's what the world expects from me. A heart turned hard, a soul not free. Here we'll go back. Who they lead us? Church fool but empty prayer. Who they lead us?
The blood still speaks.
You've got a gift. Africa needs it. Writers, artists, coders, lawyers, truth tellers. The Africa Truth Network puts your gift to work for a new Nigeria. Find your place. africatruthNetwork.com. Let there be light.
We're gonna shake the earth. Oh, let it roll. Truth in our mouths and light in our soul.
Nigeria, the biggest story on earth, and they buried it. 185,000 slaughtered, 20,000 churches burned. A genocide the world was told to ignore. One man walked into the kill zone to expose it. They tried to silence him. They failed. Epicenter, the truth they couldn't bury. Now a 3-time #1 bestseller. Read it, then join the fight.
Stranglehold. Let the people breathe. Hands inside the cookie jar.
Books instead of bullets. Mercy in our hands. Teaching sons and daughters. We will heal this land.
Let Africa rise.
Arise in Jesus' name.
Let Africa rise.
The lions do
Chains
reign.
are breaking, hope is waking. We are children of the light.
Help us rescue more children and bring them hope. Visit africariseusa.org to make a difference.
Still speaks tonight.
Hello, everybody. We are back, And we have in our waiting room here Mr. Stephen Anata. Let's try to, I don't know where he went. Let's see here. Stephen, are you there? It says you're muted. See if you can unmute yourself. And turn your camera on. So let me tell you about Stephen, as he and my producer tell him to log out and log back in, perhaps. Okay. Stephen Anata is the head of an organization called ICONS, the International Committee on Nigeria and the Sahel. Longtime respected activist in Washington, D.C., organizer. Where is he? Folks, we're having some technical difficulties here. We just lost him again. So if you recall, in March, there was a congressional briefing at the Capitol in Washington, D.C., and it went viral. Ted Cruz spoke, a number of other folks spoke, and I spoke. And that one clip of me speaking there got over 2 million views. There he is. See if we can pull him in, Jeff. There he is. Hello, my friend Stephen. How are you?
Thank you.
I've been giving
my dear friend Arnold.
Been giving you a little bit of your background, talking about the International Committee on Nigeria and the Sahel, the briefing last March, or this couple months ago in March, and then the briefing in June that you were instrumental in putting together. A true hero in every sense of the word. This man here does not call attention to himself. He doesn't toot his own horn. He does the work, and it speaks for itself. He's extremely well respected by the people I know in Washington, not just the office holders and staffers, but also the other humanitarian workers, organizational leaders. They all think the world of Stephen Anata. Say hello, Stephen.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for that. Thank you. I appreciate, Mike, for all you do. God blessings upon your life.
Amen. I want to get to know you, Stephen. We've I think we were on a podcast or two together, maybe some Zoom calls here and there, including with our friends at Avid. I mentioned them earlier. They're like you. They're the real deal. They get the work done. They do the heavy lifting, and it's not about them. They're humble, and they just keep going. And you're like that. We've shared some Zoom calls with them. And I just saw just earlier today, I think it was, what Dee Dee Lawgeson, the head of Save the Persecuted Christians, and Doug Burton of Truth Nigeria, both just said glowing things about you and their relationship with you and the work you do. Tell me about yourself. Where did you come from? And what was your path to Washington?
Thank you, my dear friend, brother, Ed Shaker. God has ordained you for such a time as this. I appreciate and affirm you, brother. Yes, my name is Stephen Anata. I started an organization some years ago in Washington, D.C. called International Committee on Nigeria. But now that is no longer in existence. Currently, I lead International Committee on Nigeria and the Sahel because of what is happening, ICONS. Now, I'm originally from Benue State, in Nigeria. I was born in Kwara State. So by that, I am cosmopolitan when it comes to Nigeria. I school in Jos, I school in Oyo, I school in Ogun State, and I live in Lagos. So I came to the United States some few years ago. Then I have to come back when my people were targeted in Benue State. The Idoma people, the Agatu people were targeted. So I came and I started advocating for victims, not just in Benue State, but almost everywhere. So I am a businessman. I and my wife, we operate businesses in Georgia, to be precise. So, but you cannot do business when there is insecurity. You cannot do business when your people are being killed. So I combine these together. So I am an author, an advocate, a businessman, and also an associate pastor.
Fantastic. Now, we don't need to get into the nuance of icon and icons unless you want to go there.
No, I don't.
Washington's
I don't need to. There is no problem at all. But sometimes you have to scale. The problem is much more than Nigeria.
Yeah,
It's all. Yeah, that is the reason we are. So there is no problem. I'm just saying that I've scaled up on that level. That's all. Yeah.
Washington's a nasty place.
Yeah, very nasty, very nasty.
So your organization that you've run for years, it has been rebranded. You've added the Sahel. You've expanded. So International Committee of Nigeria and the Sahel. Icons.
Yes.
An impeccable reputation. Tell me about the work that you do through that. How that came about, because somebody coming from Nigeria to United States. To figure out how to do that, to put a group together, to get the relationships that you formed in a relatively short period of time, it's quite remarkable, and it shows that you have God's hand on you. But tell us more about the organization and the work that you do, and some of the things you've done over the years through your work, your advocacy.
Yeah, the truth of the matter is that most times I'm very reserved, not to speak about myself, but also to speak about those who have held one's hand along this line. I won't forget my friend, a mentor, Mark Pompeo. I won't forget Congressman Frank Wolf. I won't forget Assistant Secretary of State, Professor Bob Destro. I won't forget Dr. Elijah Brown of Baptist World Alliance. I won't forget Congressman Chris Smith. I won't forget Congressman Goose Bill Arakis. I can mention them again and again. And also, I won't forget even Vice President Mike Pence, who actually plays some pivotal roles in all we do. But to just start with, I came with the determination that the killings in Nigeria must stop. So I started documenting, which led to Silent Slaughter that we produced with other organizations in the UK. Silent Slaughter documented people that have been killed and communities that have been run over in Benue, Taraba, Adamawa, Plateau, and some part of Kaduna State as at that time. And that actually led to designation of Nigeria as country of particular concern in 2020 by my dear mentor and friend Pompeo. It's on record. So, and then we begin to, you and I were there several times in Washington, D.C., when our friend Senator Cruz was in our program. And I can mention even when Senator Marco Rubio, when he was a senator before he became Secretary of State. So these are people who have actually listened to what is happening in Nigeria, because it's a global jihadism. It's about land grabbing. It's about extermination of Christianity. So like you have been saying, and you were there, and you have been there with your organization supporting the displaced people like we do. So I try as much as possible to elevate the voices of the vulnerable, the voiceless in Nigeria community and in the Sahel now. It used to be in the Lake Chad region. So my intention and my activities are to bring victim voices to the seat of power, and to also inform civil society organizations in Washington, D.C., and also in Europe, because I don't just advocate for just Nigerians. I advocate for Taiji men in Taiwan, for religious minority group in Pakistan. So I try as much as possible, and even in Myanmar, through my friend Dr. Elijah Brown, I spoke for the Myanmar people because of religious persecution as well. So this is what I do, and I love doing it because I instead of trying to skulk behind my prayers, what I do is to actually act, and that activities and also advocacy has led to a lot of what we are calling what today is becoming a platform where Nigeria voices are heard, and for you who has come to elevate it more.
So a couple questions there. First, I am curious because it's fascinating to me, and it's remarkable that you've been able to build these relationships with such a notable group of leaders, good people, all the way up to the White House. How did you accomplish all that? How did you get to be connected with and such a good relationship with these people? I'm fascinated by that. It speaks volumes about you and your character and what they see in you. But that doesn't just happen. There's people. Heck, there's people paid a lot of money in Washington to be lobbyists that don't have the relationships you have. How did all that come about? I'm just curious.
Yeah, one is God. Because imagine I came to I brought my family from Nigeria about 12 years ago. I schooled in California at the time for my grad studies. But when I went to Nigeria and things are happening, God just led me to, like, Stephen, you have to go and advocate for these vulnerable people. So I came to the United States. But the truth of the matter is that I don't know anybody. Do you know that I have to just, my pastor 12 years ago, Dr. Joe Durham, paid for my mega bus from downtown Atlanta. I have to just go on mega bus. I don't know anybody. Imagine you go with faith, and I was knocking at the door of Congress, and then God connected me with certain people that have been pivotal to what I'm doing today. Imagine you were there, you are knocking at the door. Oh, people are being killed. Like you were talking about the climate change narrative. Even at that time, there was this issue that Boko Haram was not a terrorist organization. It took concerted effort of different people and organizations to make sure even my friend like Faith McDonough, Ann Buwada of Jubilee Campaign, who were just knocking at the door, displaying placards that genocide is taking place in Nigeria. So before you know it, like that, God just opened door. People started listening. That, oh, what is this young man saying? So it's not because I know anybody. It's just because I was determined under God leadership that this thing people must hear. And honestly, it was not because I know anybody. It was because I was determined and I pursued that. So for you, if you look at a lot of people, April 22nd, that we had meeting in Washington, D.C. at a visitor center. When you spoke, and over 2 million people listened to what you said, then elevating that, our friend Senator Ted Cruz and Leo Terre and all others, they came and they were speaking. It's not about lobbying. For people like Nigeria government is lobbying, politicians are lobbying. We are not lobbyists. We are just advocates. We just speak. We have our businesses like you do. So we don't need anybody's money to pursue the agenda for vulnerable communities. So we don't lobby, we advocate, but God sees our heart and he opened that doors and he's still opening it. So I just want to make that clarification on this, brother.
It's amazing. And you have my undying respect. There are so many, even folks in this space that supposedly work with for Nigeria, that they seem to be all about self-promoting. They like to push down other people and prop themselves up. And I'm not going to name names because there's more than a few.
Yeah, we have been experiencing that. They want to cancel you out. Some people are there to cancel you out, but they can't cancel somebody that God has ordained.
Yeah, and I'm not in this to make a, I'm not in it to be famous. I actually, and I mean it, when this is all said and done, I look forward to deleting my social media accounts and just going back to being a grandpa. Yeah, it's not about that, but it is what it is. But I'm curious, and you've written a book, and I'm gonna put that up on the screen in just a second here. But help me with this, because you have a perspective that I don't. I've been out in the wilderness. I've been trying to build this story and tell this story for many years, from in my own way, with producing documentary film and all that. And you've been up there knocking on doors and getting the attention of a lot of powerful people. But recently, the Nigerian government has dumped a ton of money into a lobbying effort to push a different narrative. And Trump has some very conflicted advisors. How is that, from your perspective, how has that changed the whole dynamic there, this whole narrative war and the Nigerian lobby money specifically? What is that? Tell us, what that looks like from your perspective, how that's changed and what it means.
Well, it's just that it became so obvious. Nigeria government of different administrations have been lobbying forever. And then Washington, D.C. is like Babylon. China money is here, Arab money is here, African money is here, Nigeria money is here. And for most of these lobbyists, they are actually part of government one time or the other. And then they register with FARA, and some clandestinely will go to lobby. So it became obvious because a lot of people, for the first time, their eyes were able to be open to DCI. DCI, even unfortunately, is like a conservative lobbying firm that are lobbying for Nigeria government. Now, people say that they deploy $9 million, but that is a lie. Tons and tons of millions of dollars. And these are actually obstacles that change narrative when it comes to Nigeria issue. When people are killed, like they say, farmer headers. And then when people are killed, they say it is because of climate change. And if climate change problem is global, that climate change affects the universe, why is it that it is in Nigeria that it goes on arms to kill people and vulnerable and sleeping communities? So you begin to see how narrative changes, and you begin to see even how that lobbying money affects and influence media, the elite media, the Western media, not to cover the story, but to just, they lack the will to see. In fact, Bernard Levy, actually from France, did a movie called the Will to See. He went to Nigeria and he was able to do some movies some years ago. Do you know that it was clamped down because of lobbying monies, because they don't want the truth to be heard? So for you, when you were trying to expose that, you can see how they are fighting you to cancel you, to give you all kinds of names. But what we do is that, you see, President Trump is encumbered with a lot of issues, from Middle East, Iran, to Israel. So it's a global community, and then he has tons and tons of advisors, senior aides. So they come with him. And then if you look at Bulus is actually somebody who profits from Nigeria money. So, and such person is an advisor. What is he going to tell Trump? So Trump is not on ground. Trump will act on what he hears. So the truth of the matter is that we don't stop. For those of us who are not money bags, for those of us who are doing like you, who are working on this project to make sure the global community understands and they are able to address these issues, you don't stop. You will speak. We have to speak through all the channels and networks we have. And it is because of trust. Because one, we are not being paid any money. We are spending our own money. We are not collecting money from anybody. We are just saying, this is what is happening. And that is the reason what you are doing, you have to do it by virtue of documentation. Real life interview, as these things are happening, as they are killing people, you let them see it. And that is the reason why the issue of climate change, the issue of farmer headers crisis has died down. If people like you, everyone and us, are not trying to countered such evil narrative, then up to now, the Sultan and the Fulani militia will be saying it is farmer herders. The truth of the matter is that Nigeria government, because they don't want to do what is right and because they're overwhelmed and it is a jihadist wrong government, they will not want a situation whereby the truth is known. And that is the reason why they are deploying. And they are deploying millions of dollars, but our own is that we are deploying the truth to counter that, and we are winning, and we will win, and the people will win.
Yeah, and so speaking the truth and the narrative war. Let me see if I can make this work. There we go. There's your book. Tell us about your book. What's it about, and how can people get it?
Yeah, it's actually the book is almost in every country that I know, Western country, even it's in China, it's in Japan. And then if you look at stephenenada.com, you will see all the outlets, platforms that sell the book. But this is not about marketing the book. It used to be said that the problem of Nigeria is leadership. But I said no. There is an addendum to that. The problem of Nigeria is also followership. So the demons of Nigeria is actually exposing how everyone is culpable, how everyone is part of the problem. You begin to look at when people supposed to be crying, they are clapping hands. Now, when people supposed to call their government to order, they are campaigning and clapping for them that they have to be the leaders. When you begin to look at civil service, where it becomes a cesspit of demons, where they manipulate. When you look at judiciary, who never educated what is right. When you look at politicians, they are Leviathan. They are the one who actually spoil every reform. So you begin to look at everybody, you begin to look at ethnic bigotry, you begin to look at religious bigotry, who is not part of Nigeria problem. And these institutions, the masses, they've demonized. So the book is actually set out to expose all the institutions and people who have actually demonized Nigeria and have held Nigeria back from accomplishing what God has actually said Nigeria to do. And it proposes the solution. So it's not about just demonize. I am part of the problem. So it's not that maybe I'm putting myself out of that, because one, if you are passive, you are part of the problem. If you are active, you are part of the problem. But the truth of the matter is that the book seems to is exposing the evil, and for us to admit that. And international community, you begin to look at, and all of us, Nigeria and the diaspora, we are part of the problem because we exported our tribalism, our religious bigotry into even the international community, and we operate from that prism. Then you begin to also look at international community, where you have the United Kingdom, who actually take money that is stolen, Western countries taking money that Nigeria government has stealing. And now you begin to look at it. Nigeria corrupt politicians have access, because they have stolen money, to go for medical tourism in China, in India, in America, in France, in the UK. But the ordinary people, you see, your organization, you build schools for vulnerable children who are victims of insurgents. Then you now begin to look at Nigerian government leaders, politicians who actually ferry their children abroad to school. And they do that cavalierly, they do that without any repercussion. And then you begin to look at even the masses who are suffering, projecting them, singing hallelujah, beating with their cap in hand, beating their part to see this politician for pittance, for money. That doesn't even solve their problem. Hospital is in shambles, crisis, and every other thing. So we Nigerians are part of the problem. And now, also, those civil society organizations that are self-seeking, glorifying entity are part of the problem, because they will now go and begin to say, oh, we are the one working, and then we are the one who's supposed to be adulated because we are the one supporting. They will raise money of the vulnerable community and they spend that on themselves. They don't have any business than just to begin to advocate that, people are being killed in Nigeria, and people like, we want to support. And that money is actually just like every other, like the US government giving Nigeria aid, international community giving Nigeria aid, but that aid comes back to those players, contractors, to the contractors. So you see, you begin to look at how the issue of corruption, the issue of terrorism work hand in hand, they reinforce themselves, and you begin to look at why is the United Kingdom, who is a colonial master, having these politicians who are corrupt and having their asset in the United Kingdom. How are they having their asset in the Swiss bank? And also, how are they having their asset in Jersey banks? So you begin to, the reason why terrorism has not stopped, one is because those who are dealing in arms profit from it. Those who, and it is global, and those who are actually profiting from, what do I call it, from a sex enslavement of young women, they are in cahoots. So you begin to look at this thing, it's actually a global cartel that politicians, international community are involved. Unfortunately, Trump is very, very, very engaged in different issues. And until we begin to knock at those doors that we have been knocking, and we consistently knock at that, we have to begin to expose those people who actually are profiting from Nigeria, those corrupt entities, from entrepreneurs, those who are pseudo-entrepreneurs who actually collect government waivers. And then they will say they don't invent anything. And that's what the book that is trying to expose. You begin to say, they say, somebody is a billionaire in Nigeria, then you begin to ask, what has that person produced? Nothing. Nothing. It's just government patronage. And then also, the demons of Nigeria are pastors. Pastors who cannot speak. Pastors who are actually, they are counter even to reform. Pastors who cannot even speak that people are being killed. So we are part of the problem. And unfortunately, my constituents, when you talk about where do I belong to, my constituency is Christian community because I'm a Christian. I'm an associate pastor here in Georgia. But the truth of the matter is that when pastors don't speak, when pastors patronize government, one for money, you begin to now ask yourself, where are we going to have victory? And that is what the book seems to unveil. And then Professor Tony Falola graciously wrote, he's a professor, and then he's a renowned historian who actually wrote, he lives there near you, he's in Austin. So he wrote forward to that. But all I'm just saying is that he read the book and he said, hey, this is actually what we need to, because we need to investigate, diagnose, and propose. Nigeria is a cesspit of corruption, and Nigeria, like what you are just saying, when you have a government that look away, lack the will to see, then you begin to now ask yourself, where is going to be freedom for those who have been killed? For example, you are now here in the United States. Nobody comes to attack us in our home because Second Amendment is in force. We don't really go out because we have Second Amendment right to go and attack anybody because there are rules, there are laws. But in Nigeria, imagine we say we just want a community vigilante. Government say no.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, in the story of Nigeria, I think there's the two tragedies. Of course, what's happening, what's real, is tragic from every measure. The ongoing slaughter of innocent people, displacement, the people treated like just trash, an object that's in the way, just clear them out. And that seems to be the mindset, not just of the politicians and the ruling elite, but the international community. In fact, I found, I'm sure you're familiar with it, a document written by Henry Kissinger. I don't know whether he was National Security Advisor or Secretary of State at the time he wrote it.
He was,
but
he was both. He was both, but Secretary of State.
Yeah, he wrote a document that was classified for 15 years that said out loud what the world has always thought of Africa. It said, we need Africa because it's got a lot of resources. The problem with Africa is there's people there that would use these resources if we would let them. So we need to figure out how to reduce the number of people and get them out of the way so we can keep taking their resources. I mean, pretty much the crux of what Kissinger wrote. No wonder they kept it classified for 15 years. But it's, as we know, I mean, that's the same conversation they had at the Berlin conference, and every European government for centuries, has seen Africa that way. So what exists is a tragedy. But to me, perhaps even the greater tragedy is what could have been, what should be. Because these weren't, I mean, in the United States, people tend to relate it to the situation of the Native Americans, which was tragic in its own right, but they were legitimately Stone Age people. They were legitimately primitive people. Certainly had, certainly human beings, and certainly a lot of, dignity and a lot of wisdom there. But, the United States, one of the evils of our history was pushing these people out into displacement camps we call Indian reservations. But it wasn't the same in Africa. They didn't find Stone Age people that were, just primitive. There was a lot of advanced civilization in Africa. I specifically, people talk about the bronzes, but the Igbo were casting sophisticated, multi-part, lost wax bronzes in the 800s. When Europe was in the Iron Age, beating iron, they were casting bronze. When Europe was in the Dark Ages, they had a rich heritage of a consensus-based government. And that's just one tribe. I mean, there's so many examples of sophisticated civilization, a unique expression of the human experience and unique solutions to problems, that if the Europeans and now the Americans and Chinese and others were to have come not to take, but to collaborate, to cooperate, to invest, to sow in, it blows my mind to think what could exist. I think that the mythical, fictional, Marvel construct of Wakanda is not far off of what could have been. And as a case in point, you're a case in point. You're an example. Everywhere that I've seen that Nigerians go on this earth, they rise to the very top. And they do it right. They do it through integrating, through patriotism, through building with honor and integrity and faith. Nigerians in the United States today are said to be the wealthiest and most educated group. And I believe it from the ones I know and the ones I've met. Just remarkable model human beings everywhere in the world except for back home. Back home, they're ground down and forced, if they're going to rise, it's forced to do it in a way that's generally pretty corrupt. How do we get from the tragedy that is to the reality that could be, that should be? How do we unlock the potential and set the people free to create a great civilization that is theirs by right, and is theirs by nature, that's been withheld, that's been strangled out of them? What's the solution? How do we bring down the demons of Nigeria?
Yeah, first of all, I will drop this problem with colonial masters, especially the British colonial masters. They came with they first of all let the Africans think everything African is evil. So they change the culture to make sure everything European or British is superior. So people started hating their good culture. They started hating everything about themselves. So, and then when they come, instead of them to let them develop their language educational system, they impose languages and they say you can't speak. So it's in disarray. The missionary activity became like a patron servant activities, and you begin to see when missionary came to Africa, they came with good intention to share the gospel, which is great. They came with a lot of development strategies and instruments, which was great. But unfortunately, when they were doing that, they were creating dependence culture. Meaning, if they build a church or they build a school, if the roof of that building is leaking, then the community, because they have been taught to be dependent on the white missionary, they will send and say the room you build, the roof is leaking, come and fix it. Whereas they have local resources to do that. So you begin to look at that. Then you look at racial hierarchies. When they came, they divided people against themselves. So there is no room for solidarity. And then instead of creating patriotism, they created ethnic supremacies. You begin to look at what you begin to look at ethnic exceptionalism. So what can happen now and what is still happening, and that is we need to be humble. Anybody who is working with Africa communities supposed to be humble to look at these are people created in the image of God. These are people you now begin to look at how the United States and the Western communities opened to Nigerians and to Africa, and they come and they are succeeding. Meaning, it's not that these people are ignorant, it's just because one, if you look at worldview, we have been wearing set of glasses over the years, and that set of glasses is saying that when you are in Nigeria, you can be corrupt. When you are in Nigeria, you can buy justice. When you are in Nigeria, you can manipulate. When you are in Nigeria, you can lie. When you're in Nigeria, you steal and you will not be held accountable. When you are in Nigeria, if you kill somebody and you know somebody in power, you can go scot-free. So with that glasses, it has formed people's worldview to look at things differently. But those Nigerians, you bring them to the United States, they will abide by rules and regulation because they know that nobody is going to manipulate that on your behalf. So you begin to look at how colonialism shaped the mindset and culture of people. So I think with what we are doing, we are looking at, and what I tell my friends, like you look at equal opportunities and you look at how God has created human being equal. Yes, you may have certain resources, much more, even here in the United States. Some people are still struggling. And then you don't look down on them, but you look at how can we help them. But in Nigeria, the politicians want to be seen and worshipped. And what that does is for them to lie to their counterpart, and they keep on lying. So for me, it's neither here nor there. It is actually people emancipating themselves from that mental slavery that because you are black, you are African, you are Nigeria, you can amount to something. But the culprit is our leader. We need to expose them. We need to name them. We need to shame them. They are evil. I know many of them. I don't want to mention them now. Many of them, their phone call away, but they are evil to the extent that imagine you were in Nigeria. When I was in Nigeria a few months ago, do you know what? In the community, I went to a community, and that community, they have to put a generator so that because it was hot and everywhere was quiet. And I say, you have to off that because people will be asking, who is that big man that has generator that actually with $100 you have it? Not many people have it. So, but when you wake up in the morning, then they will just say, oh, he's from the United States. Oh, he's a millionaire. He has money. Who does that? to the extent that you don't see people who can actually buy medication of $2, and many children are dying. You go to hospitals, you meet thousands and thousands of sick people, and preventable death, treatable illnesses, and then politicians, they will be going with motorcade and with sirens, protecting them against the insurgent we are talking. So when they see them, and then they now say, oh, give them rice. And the problem in Nigeria is not actually those leaders. The problem is the masses. And that is what I'm saying. The masses, the spirit of silence and the gullible masses has to be healed first. Because revolution must happen in Nigeria. And that revolution will come from the people who will reject their colonial master, who is no longer Britons, who are actually politicians.
That's right. That's right. No, I keep saying this to folks in Nigeria. Your hope is not found in a white man. Your hope is not found in Washington, D.C. Your hope is not found in Europe or China or anywhere else. Your hope is in your heart. It's in your mind, and it's in you. It's the people of Nigeria. Again, wherever they go on earth, they rise to the very top. I don't think Nigerians in general realize how truly exceptional they are in all the world. God has made the Nigerians use the term, I'll get to that. You use that term loosely, Nigeria, but
sorry to cut in. What I'm just trying, you see, there was civil war in Nigeria. Millions and millions of Igbo were massacred. And then you gloss over it and say that will go. Then over and over, you now say that Igbo cannot be president in Nigeria. Who does that? So now you have annihilated them from the mainstream, and then why won't they agitate? So you see, we lie to ourselves most times. Oh, you don't need to talk about Igbo issues of self. It is because of injustice. And then the Oduduwa are saying that the reason why it is quiet in Yoruba land now is because a Yoruba person is president. If he's no longer president, the agitation of injustice will come. So we need to destroy this imbalance. I am not agitating. I'm not asking for Nigeria dissolution. But if there is injustice, if there is this issue of somebody cannot, somebody is disenfranchised, somebody is not seen as part of the nation, then the person has right to say, I don't want to be part of that corruption. So the truth of the matter is that we hide and don't want to speak the truth. I'm not trying to speak the truth. I am from the minority group, Idoma. So the truth of the matter is that, but I still within, if you don't consider me within the polity and to contribute, then why would I want to be part of that? So we need to, we are just running away from reality. And I'm telling you, it's a ticking time bomb. And when it explodes, if they like, they should listen. But if it explodes, the whole Africa will implode. Yeah. And I'm telling you, Nigeria is 5 minutes to midnight. 10 alarm fire.
So what is so you're talking right now, and I don't know how many people are going to end up watching this, but I've got pretty good following across Nigeria and in the diaspora. And you're an extremely smart and educated person, obviously. But I want you to make it into make it simple for the average Nigerian watching, for the average person in the diaspora watching. Maybe it's two different messages. What do you say to them? What can they do? What do they need to do to avoid this time bomb from blowing up, and so they can actually build this potentially amazing, great nation into its full potential? What's your advice to them? What's your marching orders?
If one, justice has no color. If you think justice applies to your own people alone, then there is no justice anywhere. what that means is that we have to begin to look at issues from justice point of view, justice that applies to everyone. That one, nobody is superior to the other. And we need to begin to look at it that because you are my brother and you are in government, it doesn't mean I must support you at the expense of the other people. And what that means is that we don't need to dehumanize ourselves. When you begin to look at national discourse, because in our national conversation, if you say somebody is evil, one tribe is evil, one tribe is that, you have dehumanized that. And that is what led to the Third Reich in Germany, where people, over 6 million Jews were killed. It started from dehumanizing people. So we need to stop dehumanizing people. We need to just address issues. When you are wrong, you are wrong. When you are right, you are right. It is immaterial where you come from. So we need to respect the Hausa, the Fulani, the Igbo, but also we need to call out the evil. And the evil today is Islamic jihadism that is propagated, that is promoted by the promoters who we already know. And now, if Nigeria government is playing politics with lives, then they are not ready to resolve the issue. And what that means is that everybody is a victim. Everybody is a victim if you don't speak out and if you don't abide by what is just and right.
So that translates to, I mean, daily life, but also translates, I guess, into the voting and all that. I mean, again, how is this change? I have hope. I believe that change is coming. I wouldn't be wasting my time. I wouldn't be spending my life doing this. I know you wouldn't be either if it was a hopeless cause. There's we believe that there's a better day. What does that look like to you? Say, first of all, how do practically just you 1, 2, 3? How do we get there? How does it happen? And then take me into the future. Say that there's regime change. Say there's a new constitution. Say there's this great awakening, that the strongholds are pulled down. Islam is contained. The radical Islam is stopped. That peace comes, that the stronghold of colonialism and that mindset, the stronghold of toxic tribalism and that mindset, say these things are finally overcome, that they're pulled down. How does that happen practically? And what does it look like? Take me forward 10 years, 20 years into the new Nigeria.
I have been, I've experienced since 80s, where I became aware politically in Nigeria, the source of water is polluted, and you cannot be at the receiving end thinking the polluted water will bring a clean water for you. It's already polluted and contaminated, and then you are going to have all sorts of diseases. One, the 1999 Constitution is infected, is polluted. Then two, the driver, you see, these are egomaniac politicians who actually are in the cabin, and they are giving a lot of alcohol to people in the cabin. They are making all sort of noises to the extent that as the train is really hurrying to the steep, to the cliff, nobody cares because they are drunk. So the truth of the matter is that, one, the Nigeria, you see, I keep on telling, in 2022, I was telling the likes of Governor Peter Obi that the election is not going to be free and fair. And I was saying that because the structure is polluted, the structure is corrupted. And I was with International Republican Institute. Then I took even a presidential candidate there in person of SDP candidate then, Prince Adebayo Adewale. I took them in Washington, D.C. to like, look, the election is not going to be free and fair. And I'm telling you, the election in 2027 is not going to be free and fair. And that is why I am calling on the administration of President Trump and also international community to make sure election is free and fair. So when you are not going to project, we pray and say things are going to change and happen. But you see the structural problem. The structural problem, INEC is partial, and then you begin to look at the legal instruments. Where in the whole wide world will election be contested and in court, and then the person who was declared as president became president, and the case that he didn't win that election is in court? Who does that? So imagine election, which is January next year, and they declare a candidate, and the candidate now is sworn in, and the case of his election is still being contested. So we have all this. It is same old boondoggle. What I'm just saying now is that you are now saying the future is actually, it lies with us, trying to make sure the 1999 Constitution becomes people's constitution through referendum of state assembly coming together, people coming together and say, this is what we want as a nation. Because if you don't do that, we will not have justice, because it is military decree that we have as a constitution. So 10 years from now, if we work hard, we'll be able to change constitution. Electoral law becomes great. But what you and I should do now is also that if anybody rigs election, if people are killed, those who are behind that should be maduroed. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
The Nigerian leaders, political leaders who are going to cause problem for people to die, more people to die, election to be rigged, we should Venezuelize them. Venezuela is a case in point, because they have actually gone against the international proviso that protects human dignity, human life, and other obligations. For me, if election is not free and fair, those who rig it should be maduroed from Nigeria. And then those who cause loss of life should be wasted also. We cannot be counting body bags from election to terrorism, and we think we cannot be skulking behind our prayers and call it authentic Christianity. Authentic Christianity means our private life has public implications. We need to speak, we need to act, we need to push for the reform. So am I doubtful that Nigeria will be changed? No, if I'm doubtful, I will not be speaking with you. But also the instruments that will make a corrupt third world nation like Nigeria is to also make sure we invoke international instruments that hold leaders, corrupt leaders, dictators accountable. And that is what we must continue to. I don't know whether I answered that, but that is my own perspective.
But here's what I wrestle with, because and I'm in the same position. It's one thing to say Nigeria needs a new constitution. I think we all agree on that. It's a sham. Nigeria needs free and fair elections. Of course they do, but we sort of have a problem with that here in the United States. You saw what happened in Los Angeles recently. That wasn't a free and fair election. There's a lot of reason to believe that the 2020 election wasn't a free and fair election in the United States. These are lofty goals, and they're things that can be done. Those who want self-determination, demand a referendum, and I don't fault them at all. I think we're awesome. The people needs to have the ability to manifest their own identity and chart their own course. I heard somebody in Germany the other day, and I've always wrestled with using even the name Nigeria, because we know where that came from, Lord Lugard's girlfriend, and a lot of people don't even accept that label. And this gentleman in Germany the other day said, "Oh, Nigeria, that's the country's slave name, which really spoke to me as American, because I remember when I was a child watching the miniseries Roots, where the main character, his real name was Kunta Kinte, but his slave name was Toby. They called him Toby, and that's the white man's name they gave him, and that's the name Nigeria is, the slave name of the country. It's what the white man gave him. So, I mean, all these things, the Constitution, self-determination, free and fair elections, yes, they need to be done. The question is how. Because as you know, people are, great, they petition Great Britain. Great Britain is the cause of this in a lot of ways. They United States helped make all this happen in a lot of ways. Not just the structure of it all and the tragedy of the Biafran genocide, but even Obama unleashing Boko Haram when he did. How do we get these things? It's not going to be given. The United States isn't going to come in and say, here's a free and fair election. The government of Nigeria is not going to say, here's self-determination. Power is never given. How do we achieve these things? What do we do?
I will draw you back again. You see, in my book, I was saying that the dilemma of polyzygotic conception, where many fetuses were conjoined, and up till now, they are still conjoined because, and the reason I'm saying this is because the system, Nigeria culture is not broken. It never was. Actually, Nigeria is functioning precisely as it was designed to function,
That's right.
Serving the interests it always meant to serve at the expense of those it was never meant to protect. So, what my proposal...
Folks, it looks like we have lost Stephen right when he was getting to the proposal. We'll give him a second to log back in. What an amazing fella. Came here from Nigeria, and just through his hustle and his heart, he is now on a very close personal basis with everybody from representatives and State Department leaders, Marco Rubio, up to Senator Ted Cruz, up to Vice President Mike Pence. Amazing story. I'm going to encourage you to go visit Stephen Inata. It's STEPHEN Inata.com. Oh, here he comes. Definitely order. I'm going to add him to the stream here. Here we are. Stephen, you there? There you go. Jeff, take yourself out. There we go. Can you hear me? He's got some connectivity issues. Folks, let me put on the screen here his information here. There you go. So that's Stephen Inata. Unfortunately, his stream froze. He's the executive president of ICONS. That's the International Committee of Nigeria and the Sahel. As you've heard, he's an amazing fellow with a good heart, a lot of accomplishments, and he's written a book, The Demons of Nigeria. I understand we got another opportunity here. Let's see. Hello. There he is. Are you there? Folks, I'm gonna move on. Let's see here. One more try. No, it's the same thing. Mr. Gibbs, my producer, Jeff, can you message him and let him know we're gonna move on and thank him? But that's the problem with live video, folks. Never a dull moment. We're gonna take a little break. Again, I want to encourage you, go to Stephen Inata. You can see it there on the screen, STEPHEN ENADA. stephenanata.com, and find his book. It's called, I'm going to throw it up here on the screen, The Demons of Nigeria. This man has been on the front lines for quite a while, serving Nigeria, the Nigerian people, in a way that's even impossible to measure. Truly a hero. He's all the good things that have happened in Washington, in whatever they are. And there's been a number, all the good statements, all that stuff. He is a large part of making that happen. And as you can see, he's a humble person. He's a hardworking person. Buy his book, read it, educate yourself, learn from this great man. And we're beyond the path to a better future for all of us. So with that, I'm going to take a little break here. I'm going to come back with the last word. Stay tuned.
Who watches Nigeria this week? Movers and shakers, diaspora leaders, people of conscience around the world, like you. Every Friday, we broadcast live to more than 350,000 followers across multiple platforms. People who want a brighter future. People who care about truth, not propaganda. Sponsor Nigeria This Week. Put your name in front of an audience that's paying attention. AfricaTruthNetwork.com. Nigeria This Week, live, every Friday.
Folks, let me see if I can fix this here. Why am I small? There we go. Been a heck of a show today. Things work better. We're learning this live format. There's no safety net. So when we lose somebody, we lose them. When there's a glitch, there's a glitch. When the audio doesn't work, it doesn't work. But we forge forward. I hope that you have had a pleasant time watching this, that you've learned a lot. We talked about the narrative war going on in Washington, D.C. Since Trump has been manipulated and misled into declaring premature victory. I think his heart stays in the right place, and there's an opportunity. There's still a chance, and people are starting to speak up and get louder and get stronger. Riley Moore, Chris Smith, John James, Ted Cruz, so many others, and you need to join the chorus. We need to be louder. To raise these issues and to speak the truth. There's no such thing as darkness. It's the absence of light. Be the light. We heard about one of those people who is no doubt, obviously on the surface of it, guilty of misleading and manipulating Donald Trump, Mossad Boulos, who 3 days after I risked my life to tell the truth in Abuja, which set all this in motion, they say, with the press conference in October. 3 days later, he met privately with his crony, Tinubu, from whom he benefits from no-bid contracts. He met with him in Rome and came out and spoke to the government-owned TV camera and repeated verbatim the talking points of Issa Pantami and the other northern imams. We learned about what the Sultan of Sokoto said this week. I think it's hilarious in a lot of ways. He's feeling the heat. Turn it up higher. He said, stop attaching the label Fulani herdsmen to kidnappers, bandits, and terrorists. Well, first of all, that label is true. But second of all, that's what the propagandists have been pushing all along. Farmer, herder, farmer, herder. I guess they didn't think through the fact that all the herders are Fulani and all the people dying are farmers. So I think that narrative thread has reached its end, I hope. There's other false narratives that need to be straightened out, but it shows that we can win this. It shows that we're making progress. When the Sultan asks us, please stop using farmer-herder clash, which is effectively what he did, that's a win, folks. I don't think he even realized what he was saying. And we looked at, in depth, at the jihad economy. how these black flag groups from ISIS, Al Qaeda, ISWAP, blah, 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 all of them there in the Sultan's domain, seeking to build a platform for the body, Dan Fodio's mandate, killing everybody that stands in their way. And like Mohammed raided the camel caravans, they're pushing blood minerals, they're doing kidnapping and slavery, they're running drugs, they're doing the shakedown, jizya, taxation, and they're making at least $3 billion a year, more than the Nigerian government spends on its military, more than the budget of several other African nations they're generating by extracting it from the people and from the land. And we had a fantastic conversation with an amazing human being, Stephen Anata, a true hero. Every Nigerian should thank him. He's a man of faith, a man of dignity, a man of integrity, a man of great energy. And he's written a great book, Demons of Nigeria. You can find it today at stephenanata.com. Now, I asked him, and I keep asking this because I've asked myself this so much. And I hear this a lot from Nigerians, which is good. They know what needs to be done. We need a free and fair election. We need new boundaries. We need self-determination. We need a new constitution. We need to pull down this government. Yes, all those things need to happen. But I always follow up with how. How does it happen? Your hope is not from a white man, no matter who he is, from the White House on down to the Blanco, Texas. The people from the outside can help. I'm doing my best to help. I think Trump desires to, if he had the truth. But the problems that you have were done from the outside. And to think that Great Britain, to think the United States, to think other industrialized nations are going to do something to change the status quo is absurd, because the status quo has been intentionally engineered to benefit them. The government, Nigerian government, is not going to say, oh, let's do a new constitution because everybody in it benefits from the status quo. And so how do these things happen is the question. And here's what I believe. I've been telling you to get loud, and that's important. The world can help, and the world can apply pressure to make change, but it's not going to do it the way things sit today. Here's why. Why no court, why no government, why no politician is ever going to do the needful to help. It's because politicians answer to their constituents. From Donald Trump to Riley Moore on down. It's their constituents and their donors ultimately that they have to answer to. And I'm going to speak from the perspective of the United States because I know it, and I know it's also true elsewhere, like Great Britain, maybe not quite so bad. But I'm going to say it. Line up 1,000 Americans, and I'm not joking. 990 of them couldn't place Nigeria on a map. Certainly couldn't tell you the difference between Nigeria and Swaziland. They just don't know. It's such an African country. And for my brethren in the Southeast, 1,000 out of 1,000 have never heard the word Biafra, never heard the name Nnamdi Kanu. And to think that a politician who has those people as his constituents and his donors is going to do something to help, it's not going to happen. Out of the goodness of their heart, when they can, like Riley Moore, they're going to do what they can. But when push comes to shove, they got to answer to the folks back home. And you can watch their feeds. And I'm not picking on Riley Moore. I know he's a good man and he's doing his best. But the fact is, you look at his feed and he's talking about, the harvest in West Virginia and this new company that's hired 100 people in his hometown and all the issues that a congressman has to deal with. And he serves a 2-year term, and during that time, he's got to raise a ton of money to get reelected. That's reality. That's just it. To think that person or anybody in a position like that, Trump included, is going to spend their political capital. What do I mean by that? The juice they've built up in Washington, the favors that they're owed, the leeway that they're given to push an issue. To think they're going to spend that on a cause that not one of their constituents has ever heard of or really cares about, It's just not going to happen. That's why I say, Great Britain's not going to help. The United States is not going to help. They might, do some things around the edges that make them feel good, like sanctions, but sanctions aren't going to help. Not when the jihadis are running a $3 billion economy on their own, not when the Chinese are happy to step in and make up any shortfall that these sanctions cause. The needful, the Maduroing Tinubu, Ayatollah, the Sultan, doing the needful is not ever going to happen as long as it's an unknown cause. And so that's why I tell you to get loud, but it's more than that. We need media. We need movies. We need books. We need TV shows. There's plenty of Nigerian celebrities. They need to start talking. We need to inject this dialogue. We need to put this knowledge into people's minds around the world. A number of years ago, there was a movie, Leonardo DiCaprio, Blood Diamonds. Nobody had heard about the issue of these conflict diamonds before that. Nobody. I never had. It was just a small group of people, in these humanitarian organizations at best that were working on that issue. And then a movie came out, and it was a good movie, and it tells a dramatic story. And it just happened to be about this issue. And folks, in a short period of time, the world rose up. People stopped buying those conflict diamonds. The government stopped propping up the regimes, and laws were changed. Shopping habits were changed. That industry was shut down because of a movie, a story, a star. And I hate to say it, but that's what must happen. And that's what I'm focused on. No lobbying, no legal maneuvering, no court case is going to give you freedom. Nothing anybody does in Washington in the status quo, no sanctions, no international criminal court ruling, no statement or action from the United Nations is going to make a hill of beans difference until this becomes a subject of conversation around the world, until people can find Nigeria on a map, until people can name the enemy, and until people know about the caliphate and the Danfodio jihad, until people know about the Biafran genocide. And that's something that's a history that everybody needs to know, whether you're Igbo or Yoruba or Hausa, or doesn't matter. That was a horrific genocide that wiped out millions of mostly children through the most despicable ways imaginable. And it's been swept under the rug. And the same regime that did that is still in power today. These stories, these truths, these facts must be told. Jesus did not come as a lobbyist. He did not come as a lawyer. He did not come spouting social policies or proposed laws or court actions. He could have. He came telling stories. The power of stories, the power of truth is unshakable, and it's unstoppable. Folks, learn the stories. While there are still veterans and survivors of Biafra alive, sit down with them with a recorder and record them, video them, and post them across the board. The stories of the people in the Middle Belt, the stories of the greatness that used to exist, the civilizations that predate all of this horror, the stories of colonial abuse and excess. Tell the stories. Tell your story. Amplify it. If you're a filmmaker, if you're an artist or a musician or a writer, whatever you are, speak up. Tell the stories. Produce the films. Make the music. And to all you Nigerian performers and stars out there, don't just wrap yourself in the green and white flag and bank your dollars and your naira. Tell the stories. Use that platform to shine the light And then lobbying will work. Then the government, the governments and the people of the world will have your back when you rise up to pull down this evil regime. But as it is right now today, with the level of awareness in the world, what you're getting is what you're going to keep getting. The light has to shine, and each one of us carries a little bit of that. Magnify it, speak it, share it. Let the world know the truth of what's happening and what can be, the greatness that can be. And when that catches on, when the narrative finally shifts to the truth and people know the tragedy and the trauma and the potential, then the politicians, when the constituents call them and say, hey, you need to do something about Nigeria, then they'll get some teeth, then they'll get some courage, and then they'll use their political capital to make a change. But until then, lobbying, legal maneuvering, and all that stuff, you got to do what you got to do, but it's not gonna ever succeed to the point that you want it to until the world knows the truth. So I'm going to encourage you, keep talking, keep being loud, get louder. It is starting to erode the stronghold of the enemy. It's starting to burst the bubble that surrounds Trump. It's even making the Sultan sweat. Keep speaking, keep talking, keep loving, keep shining the light, and freedom and prosperity and peace will reign in Jesus' name. Thank you. Good evening. I'll see you next week.